from our early days, our mission has always been, empowering our customers and the clients they serve to build technology solutions that will expand language access, that will break down language barriers. We thought at that time maybe we could be the Uber or Lyft for language interpreting.
I always tell people if you can request an Uber, you can request an interpreter.
It was much more complicated than just building a car service, but the idea was, how can we help businesses get interpreters on demand to increase language access? I come from a background of building technology companies, and I really love building small teams and building valuable technology solutions out of basically thin air, or just from a simple idea or a mission. I've done that throughout my career, and Boostlingo is no different in this case. In 2016, Boostlingo was founded by myself and my two fellow co-founders, Dieter Runge and Brian D'Agostino. I actually met Dieter through a mutual friend, Sal, who was one of our early investors, and they approached me in 2015. I didn't know anything about the language industry. In fact, at that time, I probably couldn't tell you the difference between a translator and an interpreter. I didn't know. But the more I looked at the market with Dieter and Brian and looked at the opportunity in language interpreting specifically, I got pretty excited, right? We saw a lot of really large companies that have built multi-million-dollar businesses, especially in remote interpreting back in 2015. And these companies had built really amazing businesses, over some of them doing 100 million, 500 million in revenue. And we saw this huge total addressable market. So that was a big opportunity we saw early on. And we saw that some of that tech, in our view, was a little outdated or antiquated in the market. So we felt strongly that we could build a better mousetrap. Back then, companies like Uber and Lyft were still kind of novel. They were still kind of cool. So this whole notion of a gig economy and on-demand services was still in its, I wouldn't say early stages, but maybe its sophomore year, if you're making the high school analogy, right? And we saw that, we thought at that time maybe we could be the Uber or Lyft for language interpreting, except in this case it wouldn't be drivers, it would be interpreters. Well, it turns out it's a lot more complicated than that in this industry. When you're trying to find an interpreter, not only do they have to speak the right language, of which we support hundreds now, right? But they have to have the right qualifications, right? So if you're getting a medical interpreter, they have to have medical training. And if you're getting a court interpreter, it turns out, well, they need to have court certifications in a lot of jurisdictions. So it was much more complicated than just building a car service. But the idea was, how can we help businesses get interpreters on demand to increase language access? And from our early days, our mission has always been, empowering our customers and the clients they serve to build technology solutions that will expand language access, that will break down language barriers. And I think, looking back now 9 years, I think we've been pretty successful at doing that, but we still have a long way to go.